guys here. Great. Now, tonight we have it's question and answer night. I apologize for whoever may have written a question and put it in the box. I know I looked at it, had it in my hand. That's all I remember about it. It's not in the box now. I don't know if I took it out or if that person came and removed it. So I apologize for that. Couldn't remember what the question was. So I came up with 10 questions, and if you're counting, you might count about 35 questions as you go along, but basically 10 themes, 10 questions based on 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15 through 17 really is where we're going to come back to, but I did want to preface it by looking at this verse real quick. So 1 John chapter 2, verse 15 will tell us, love not the world, as the King James says, James. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For, here's the key right here, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. We're going to stop there. We're going to come back to that later on. So where does that lead us? It leads us to last week, actually. Last week. Things I'm about to say to you, I mean no offense personally. But if it offends you so that you look at the word and say, I've been doing that, I didn't even realize. Okay, then it's an educational process. Let's go through that. Last week I was talking with Martha about it afterwards. I said, what do I even do about this? People sitting in front of us, because I sit in the back, people sitting in front of those, there was so much flesh revealed and showing that I wasn't apoplectic, but I had to refocus my mind and say, okay, we're in worship, let's worship God, because that's my focus right now, not somebody showing all their skin. So I said, well, we got a question and answer next week, meaning today, and let me just put some questions together. So I found some. There's actually a list that someone else had developed, and I kind of used it. 1 John tells us here in chapter 2, verse 16, all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. Pride of life is just plain arrogance. It's saying to God, now I don't care about you, God. I'm going to do things my way, like the singer said. So that's a problem to begin with. Now we look at the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. That means your eyes are going to something where they have no need to go and no reason to be there scripturally. And this causes the lust of the flesh. The two work synonymously together. I guess if it were a word sentence, they work together. But it doesn't take the eyes to lust after something. Now I'm talking about here, we're going to talk about sexuality. But it could be lusting after anything that distracts you from God. And woe to you, whoever it may be, reading Dan's articles the past couple of weeks, woe to you who cause another to stumble. Because you're going to have to give an answer for that. Dan and I are responsible teaching you, no, it's wrong. Here's where the word says we're wrong. We're going to stand on the word. But woe to you who cause another to stumble. Let's go on here. Paul wrote two letters, wrote a number of letters, wrote two of them to the church at Corinth and then also to the Colossians. But in his first letter to the church at Corinth, 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31, then we have to ask ourselves these questions. Question 1. Will what you are doing, saying, or wearing glorify God or glorify yourself? That should be the question you ask whenever you get up in the morning and put some kind of attire on and go out of your door. Now you're in public. You're not in the safety of your own house. What are you wearing? Does it glorify God? Or do you say to God, talk to the finger, because I'm going to do it my way? Whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. We must understand that. 1 Corinthians 10:31. Paul's letter to the church at Colossae, he was telling them too, look, whatever you choose to do, whatever the things you're doing, Colossians 3:17, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus. And if you're doing that, then you're seeking not to please yourself, You're seeking to please your Maker. That is key. Then, when you come into this building or anywhere in public, then you realize, now my goal is please God. That's what I want to do. Then you'll be pleasing to Him. Question 2. Does what you are wearing meet or exceed, or is it below, God's standard for being modest? We can't miss Genesis. We're talking about the very beginning of the Bible, if you will, if you're looking at it chronologically even. Genesis chapter 3:21. What did Adam and Eve do? Well, they did it their way. They said, I got this. They were enticed by the serpent, Satan, if you will. He enticed Eve. Hey, what about the garden here? You got the tree in the middle, tree of knowledge of good and evil. Go ahead and have a bite. Look at the fruit there. Eve said, well, no, God said not to touch it. Did He really? Are you really going to die? So she took of it, ate it, turned to her husband, gave it to him. He ate it. What's wrong with those two? God said don't do that. And they did anyway. So there they are. Now they're in sin. Eyes are open. Oh, I can perceive the knowledge of good and evil. We're naked. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. So now they're embarrassed. Do you think that they could reason by God's commands what proved embarrassment and what didn't? Yes, they could. They were embarrassed. So they hid the bushes. God said, where are you at? And they said, well, we're over here. We're naked. We don't want you to see us. They were embarrassed. Brethren, we have our commandment here. Why are we not embarrassed when we walk in here partially naked? Just a question. That doesn't count my 10, but go ahead. You can answer that for yourself. Adam and Eve were embarrassed to be seen naked before God. And in chapter 9 of Genesis, verse 23 specifically, what did Ham do? Don't know the scenario that built all up to this, but Ham saw his father's nakedness. Not allowed. Cursed will be all of Canaan. Cursed will be Ham because you saw this, you did this. So he went out and told his brothers. They in turn backed up into their father Noah's room and covered him with a blanket without looking upon him. So you see the stage is set that God has provided for us. There is shame in nakedness. Not talking about the other sermons that David has so aptly shared with us between a husband and his wife. That's different. In this case, nakedness is shamefulness. Question 3. Will your actions, speech, or clothing help or hurt your influence for Christ? The things that you do will prove to the world that you're either just like them, no different, so what do I need this Bible for? What do I need your church for? You're not different from me. Or it'll say to them, well, you are a peculiar nation. I think that's from the King James. You are a royal priesthood. You guys are definitely different because you don't dress like that, like you're gone to the beach somewhere and walking around Walmart. So you have to ask yourself, am I doing this through selfish ambition or conceit? That's Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Philippians 2, 3, 4. Easy way to remember it. Let nothing be done. Let nothing be done. Paul, writing to the church at Philippi, chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition. Come walking in here half naked, that's selfish ambition. I would have to submit to you. If you're watching online, please take note. You can talk to me about this. That's fine. We're going to open the Word, though. We're going to open the Word. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. That way, when you're considering someone else's actions or perhaps their thoughts, you're not going to entice them. I'm getting ahead of myself. But in verse 4, let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also the interests of others. Question 4. Question 4. Now we're getting specifics about clothing. No, I'm not going to tell you what to wear. But the principle is modesty and who's embarrassed or ashamed. Is your clothing too short? Is your clothing too short? Here's a challenge. Sit down. Not right now. You're sitting. when you get home, before you get out, get up in the morning, go out in the street somewhere, go out and walk around. Sit down, cross your legs, bend over, squat down, reach up at any time. Does your clothing hike up or shrink down so that others can see your midriff, see half your thigh? There used to be MTV. I don't know if that music television is still on. Maybe it's not. There's YouTube now and all these different musical shows you can see on the computer. I guess I'm behind the times on that, huh? But anyway, you tune into a country show. Now, I like country music because it tells a story, but that's just me. But they'll show a video. I don't even know what's going on. Why are they so naked in these videos? Shorts like, what's that lady's name? Dixie Duke or Daisy Duke? I know I get it. Daisy Duke from back. Okay, I'm showing my age again, so let me move on. Why are people showing their nakedness in any music video? Walk into Walmart yesterday, right down here. We watched them walking back and forth. Generally, they were younger, but not that young. They should have known better. Walk into Walmart, you see all kinds of attire. I mean, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Why are you in here in your pajamas? Why are you out in public in your pajamas? But I'm talking about this flesh that's showing to everyone, to the whole world. Here I am. Look at my nakedness. I don't know what you're trying to say. With those tops and blouses, does your midriff show? Midriff is an older term. It means your belly. Well, I mean, then even Adam and Eve realized they were half naked. In fact, they were totally naked. So God had to clothe them. Alan's leading a Wednesday night Bible study starting at 7 o'clock. Jeremiah is the book that we're in right now. Jeremiah, an Old Testament book. But man, oh man, you would think they'd written it just the other day. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 15. This one we generally know, but I'm going to read it for you. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 15. God says, Jeremiah, write this down, because here's this people's problem. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? That's terrible sins. No, they were not ashamed. They didn't even know how to blush anymore. Jump ahead to 2024. Now you can be apoplectic. It's just appalling what people are wearing and saying, you must accept this. You're not wearing anything. The emperor has no clothes on. Well, shame on you for saying that. Therefore, says God to Jeremiah, therefore they shall fall among those who fall at the time that I punish them. They shall be cast down. Now, that's Old Testament. Okay, well, hold on. Question 5, is your clothing too tight? Yes. Not saying sit up back just so you can see this. No, that's enticing you to sin. I don't want you to do that. Why do we have people coming here or anywhere walking around downtown in tight clothing so tight? I think those are, they'll look like jeans. I don't think they're jeans. I think they're some kind of tights thing. There's a reason for they're called tights, because it hugs the skin. Then you can see everything that this person should be wearing. It looks like they're not wearing. Are you revealing the form of your bodies which highlights or emphasizes sexuality? Perhaps tantalizing, enticing, or tempting others to have impure thoughts. We have young people sitting amongst us today, and we have others during the morning worship. Young people, what are we teaching them? If we walk in here half naked, tight clothing, bra straps hanging out all over the place, your spaghetti strap shirt, well, it's got straps, spaghetti, but it opens up all halfway down your back. Personally, I don't want to see it. So if you want to talk to me personally about it, come and talk to me. I'll let you know. We're going to open our Bible and have a look. I don't want to see it. Secondarily, or primarily, God says that is not modest if you're showing your flesh to everyone. Young men sitting right up here. I appreciate you guys, you 3 guys. You 5 young. Where's the other one? 6. Oh, she's down there. Okay. Appreciate all you guys. You don't need to see that nonsense. None of us do. Is it too tight? Galatians 5:19 says, now the evidence of the flesh are, the works of the flesh are now evident, which are sexual immorality, I think it's coming out of the New King James, impurity, no, it's the ESV, and sensuality. Sensuality, that's all over the, you can't even turn on TV and look at a commercial anymore without seeing some kind of enticing thing. Apparently sex sells. They've been doing that for a long time. Sex sells, and it's even more so. Now they don't even want you to, they don't even want you to use your imagination anymore, it seems. Question 6, ask yourself, this is generally to the women, is your neckline too low? Could be one of those guys in a tank top, they're generally cut like this. Tank top, the muscle shirt, I don't know what it's called, wife beater. The muscle shirt is generally made to go under another shirt, short sleeve, long sleeve, and so there's more hidden. Is it too low? Can others look into, lost my spot here. Can others look into your exposed cleavage? Why would you want to do that? We don't want our young people seeing that kind of stuff. Not until they're married, have their wives. Do this. Think about you sitting there and someone coming by to greet you in the morning. Hey, how are you? Shake your hand. Ooh, never mind. And walk away because you're looking down in someone's cleavage. First of all, men, we shouldn't be doing that. Women, don't do it either. Works of the flesh are evident. Now remember, this is Old Testament. I know it's a different culture. We're going to talk about that in a second. But God covered Adam and Eve from here, generally to down below the knee. And when you watch that movie there, a TV show, Chosen, they're covered head to toe and so on. But the idea is if you are enticing someone by showing your flesh, then you're just as wrong as the one who's lusting after you. Do yourself a favor before you go out. Stand in front of a mirror. Bend over. What do you see? Because others are going to see it. Sit down. What can you see? That means others can see it too. God made sure his priests were appropriately covered before they came in his presence. We too, being called the royal priesthood, ought to attire ourselves appropriately. Number 7, can your skin or undergarments be seen through your outer clothing? Yeah, they're all over the place. I've already mentioned it. They're out there at the beach. Maybe they got clothes on. I don't know what they're doing. I don't go to the beach, but walking downtown, right down here, walking in Concord or anywhere you happen to go, people are dressed in stuff that leaves very little, if nothing, to the imagination. John 21, verse 7. John chapter 21, verse 7. There's Peter. He's fishing out there. Someone calls from the shore. Hey, men, would you guys catch today? Peter says, it's the Lord. What did he do? Don't answer the question. I'm going to tell you. It makes me sound smart, right? Ask a question, answer it. What did he do before he jumped overboard and swam to shore to Jesus? He's going to meet his Father, his Savior. So he attired himself, put his clothes back on, and then jumped in and swam to shore. He knew he would be ashamed. Genesis 41:14. Actually starts in 39 roughly. Genesis 41:14 is where we're going to end up here, but ask yourself this question as we discuss this. Is what you are wearing appropriate and respectful? Now, at 41:14 specifically, Joseph is called from the prison. He's going to go interpret a dream. So what does he do? They took him out of prison. He said, well, I've been down here for quite a while here. He shaved himself, cleaned himself up, put on respectful clothing, as the New King James says, and he went to meet the king. But if you jump ahead before that, even in chapter 39, Joseph is being enticed by Potiphar's wife. She's trying to get him to come in to her, know her carnally, as far as the King James, or to have a sexual relation with her. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. First of all, you are a married woman, and you are married to the king. Second of all, you want to show your nakedness to me? Joseph was married, but it didn't matter. He knew it was wrong. He didn't want to see that nonsense. We don't want to see it in here. And so in chapter 41:14, he cleaned himself up and then went before the king. Question 9. Ask yourself this. Because of how you act or speak or dress, would someone mistake you for a worldly individual? There's a lot said in this one. What happened to Judah in Genesis 38:15? Wife has died. He's walked, I don't remember where he's going. It doesn't matter. He's on his journey. Turns aside because he hears a harlot. Now, this harlot had something in mind. She knew who he was. Anyway, he turned aside to her. Why did he think she was a harlot? Don't answer the question. I'll answer it for you. Because she had her face covered. It's what harlots, prostitutes, did back then. They dressed themselves so that they looked like an enticing individual, a harlot. Jump ahead to 2024 and watch some show or watch, there was one show where a guy was rescuing children from trafficking. Anyway, these evil men would put girls out there on the streets in attire that just said, "Pay for me, I'm yours. Do with me what you will." Shameful. Shame. Why do we walk in here like that, dressed like that? Stop. You may, I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm sure. Share this. Ladies specifically, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'll hesitate to say it's your job, but who better to talk with a fellow sister in Christ about their attire? I might go so far as to say, I know you're talking amongst yourselves about what it looks like, and I know you're wishing someone else would go and say, would you just put this shawl on? You're just showing way too much flesh. But us guys, it's harder for us to do so tactfully to a woman, to speak with them, but doesn't let us off the hook. Let's work together to do that. When someone comes in, by all means, I don't know how many women are in here right now, ought to go over to Sister so-and-so and say, really, is this appropriate what you're wearing? All right, that said, this woman who happened to be the daughter-in-law of Judah, he didn't know, the daughter-in-law of Judah, he went into her. She was dressed as a harlot, prostitute. Number 10, told you there were 10 questions. Does your action, speech, or clothing show that you are pure and holy to God, or an object of desire to others? Those are completely different ends of the spectrum. Will it cause another to stumble and sin? That's not another question. That's part A to that question 10. Will it cause another to stumble and sin? I mean, we've really got to stop and think about it. Okay, I'm wearing this because I'm hot. It's just how I feel. I'm going to put this on. Everybody's just going to have to get over it. I may have shared this story with you. I got into it on the military side. I got into it with somebody who was there to give us a class, a senior ranking officer. I was enlisted, and she was kind of talking about these things. It's my fault if I lust. And so I started asking questions, raising my hand, very nicely, very calmly, asking questions. And next thing, all these heads are going back and forth, looking at her, looking at me, looking at her, looking at me. And finally, she just had to tell me, in so many words, in layman's terms, she told me, shut up. For those of us in the military, she said, at ease. So I didn't say anything more, but I wanted to know why is she putting the blame on me as a potential perpetrator than the one who would be a victim. Regardless, men, boys, we have an obligation to control our thoughts, minds, keep our thoughts, minds pure, and do what God has asked us to do. So, will it cause another to stumble or sin? Everyone should ask themselves that. Will it cause another to stumble and sin? Romans 14:13 tells us, let us resolve not to put a stumbling block in front of a brother or cause a brother to fall. Well, there are a number of ways we can do that. One of them is by our attire. That's one. There are many other ways. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, his first letter, says in chapter 8, verse 9, beware lest somehow this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to those who are, I don't know, I can hear you not saying it, for those who are weak. We don't know who can handle what, and it's not a matter of who can handle. We don't want to cause anyone to stumble. We don't want to cause someone who may be weak to fall into sin because of something we could have done to stop it. Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 5, love Matthew chapter 5 and 6, Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 and 28, I say to you, whoever looks on a woman to lust for her, has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Okay. That might open up a discussion. It would take an hour to do. Let me summarize in this. If I'm not wearing attire, or if I'm not displaying my skin such that some young man might sit in the back and lust after a woman, use it correctly. If I'm not dressed so that it would cause this enticement, then I'm good. I should be good, at least so far. But if I come in saying, that's his problem, I'm going to wear what I want to wear. God, talk to the hand. That's what they're saying. All right. If there's a conclusion, let me conclude it by this. Yeah, but how many times can you have any discussion with somebody who sees it differently? Or they might even say, I don't see it that way. Well, really, so what way do you see it? The man's got the problem. Oh, well, maybe a man might have impure thoughts. So what can we do to mitigate that, not cause that? Yeah, but this is a different culture, they say. Get out of the Stone Age, they say. I've heard both of those. Times have changed since then. We have a different culture since then, since the Old Testament. Okay, we're not covering ourselves from head to toe, but we can still dress modestly. Sadly, the thoughts and intents of mankind's mind remains the same in spite of what the past showed. They wore this and were dressed modestly. Times have changed. Yeah, they have. But the thoughts in the mind, this mindset of humans hasn't changed a bit. We can still easily fall into sin by looking at someone that comes and sits in here in the flesh. Why would we cause someone to do that? It comes down to this principle. 1 John chapter 2, if you're still there, great. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. I was getting ready to give this lesson, and I realized I have these really short socks on today. And if I lift my leg, I don't see my ankle, but I see the lower part of my leg. It's because when I injured my leg such that when I have high socks on, until it heals, my whole leg just blows right up like this. It looks pretty weird. And it hurts. So I apologize right now if anyone saw a little bit of my leg. I'm assuming you didn't. Good. Don't look now. Therefore, it comes down to this principle. 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Write that on your mirror and practice it and live it every day. 1 John 2:16. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of this world, and the world is passing away. The world will have their reward. If they want it, let them have it. In the meantime, let's share with them the love of God. No, God wants us to read his word and say, oh, these are the things that I've got to do. The world is passing away and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. And that's what we all want. That's why we set up a booth down at Tilton Northfield Old Home Day, and why we didn't choose Franklin Day, and why we'll be in Samberton in a couple of weeks. Samborton. We want people to know that God loves them, and he who does the will of God abides forever. And if you had to know I got this from the GranbyChurchOfChrist.org and also ChurchOfChristArticles.com. And our attire, I used it. I give them the credit for coming up with the idea, although it's not a new idea. It is here. It is here. You can find it in Timothy, by the way. And the Corinthian letter about braiding our hair and how we're going to look before someone else and what it means. If we want to play the harlot, you want to walk in here with your stuff all nakedy, well, I'm going to encourage you, put a shawl on. And by the way, put this on too. And put this snorkel jacket on. In other words, just please cover that up. We don't want our people, they still make those things with the funny, yeah. We don't want our people to get enticed, to be tempted, especially as they come of age. We don't want that. We want to live wholesome lives, and we can. We want to live happy lives pleasing God. That is an idea of how we can do it. Don't do those 10 questions that we just talked about, or I should say, ask those 10 questions, and if you don't fit those, then change your ways and do what is right. Now, I expect that there are many that needed to hear this that still won't, even though we're recording it, we'll put it online, or run live stream, that still won't look at it. So share it with them. They're going to miss it. Don't let them miss it. Make it clear. Declare the whole counsel of God, as Paul says. Declare the whole counsel of God to them in love. Unlike the vice principal, I get out here and I slam it down and say, hey, here's what happened, so here we are. We struggle in many, many things. Yeah, here comes the invitation. Why do we do that? No. We struggle in many, many things. This is one area we're struggling. Well, I wouldn't have a bottle of water. Whiskey, alcohol. Wouldn't have offering alcohol to an alcoholic who's trying to recover. I wouldn't have alcohol in my hand anyway. But it's not something you do. You don't know who's struggling with what, how weak or strong someone is. And in many areas of our lives, we struggle with many things, trying to please God. We can be forgiven. We can be forgiven through the watery grave of baptism, believing in God, believing that his Son came to save us and gave us the way to salvation through his blood. God recognizes it through water nowadays, water. Be immersed in water, rise up out of the watery grave of baptism, walk in the newness of life. We have each other to help do that. And sometimes we just plain struggle. Maybe you got a weakness that we described today. Maybe you have another weakness. But your weakness may cause someone else to be stronger in their weakness. Kind of a funny thing, but it is possible. So if you would like the prayers of the congregation, let us know right now, as David leads us in this song.